All right, Amit, should we kick it off?
Yeah, Karim. Hi, I'm Amit Gupta, working as a solution sales architect in Middle East region with Vyom Labs. Along with me today, we have my friend and gem of this industry, Mr. Karim, enterprise sales manager from Datadog,
Morning,
and
everyone.
and my colleague, Ms. Varda, solution sales manager from Vyom Labs, Middle East region, who will be accompanying me in this webinar.
Hello everyone, good morning.
In the next 45 minutes, we will take you through organization journey on cloud migration. We will also discuss the different stages of migration. We will stress why companies get delayed or get failed in each of these stages. At the end, we will close this session with why partner with us and will take your feedback and questions. We will also draw conclusion on why observability is critical during this migration journey and my co-host will walk you through with the details. We are going to kick it off with that why companies move to cloud and what that journey look like. Adoption trend shows that companies continue to move to the cloud and many are struggling to accelerate these initiatives. Although the cloud can improve business agility, accelerate innovations, lower the cost, enhance operation efficiency, IT organizations often run into obstacles that can complicate deployment, lead to excess spending, and compromise their security and compliances. To accelerate these initiatives and increase the success rate of multi-cloud adoption, organizations should follow comprehensive end-to-end adoption framework backed by machine learning and unified observability platform across the multi-cloud. By taking this holistic approach, they can avoid pitfalls and maximize the result delivered by their multi-cloud journey or the strategies. To summarize, cloud migration can bring you following benefits. It will help you to reduce the IT cost. It will help you to improve your operation resilience. It will increase your development, engineering, and productivity. And finally, it will improve your business agility. If you look at the business outcome, you will get tools cost reductions, IT downtime, which will help you to mitigate revenue losses and their SLA penalties. Customer can also get benefited by their end user experiences and etc. Now let's walk you through with the different stages if this how the migration journey look alike. Cloud migration takes time and effort. A successful migration requires cross functional planning, controlled migration executions, and ongoing management once completed. It will ensure you are actually realizing the benefit of being in the cloud. We have divided this journey in a phase which includes plan, migrate, and run. In the planning phase, we do analysis of technical and business needs. The first phase involves the determination of objective of the migration and depending or deciding on the most appropriate method of strategy to migrate. It depending on the different factors such as purpose, timelines, and the constraints. In this phase, we also conduct proof of concept where we try to identify the POC workload, that is proof of concept workload, and the measure to the success criteria. What are the measures we can identify the success criteria? I'll walk you through with the details. What could be the measures of or the parameters we are talking about? In the second phase, that is called as migration, we are taking the plans you have developed and bringing them to the fruitions. During the migration phase, you need to be careful about exact set of steps you take for your configuration or you develop, as you are usually repeat them during your non-production and production migration waves. The migration phase is when you put in place your infrastructure component, your IAM, your networking firewall rules, and your service accounts to ensure they are configured properly. This is also when you test your application on the infrastructure configuration, ensuring that they have access to their database, file shares, servers, or the load balancers. It also includes Active Directory servers and more. Migrations also includes using logging and monitoring to ensure your application continue to function with the necessary performance. Let's understand what lies in the run phase. We have talked about planning, we have talked about migration. Now, what are the steps included in the run phase? You have completed your migration, but not your journey. Now is the time to begin comparing pre and post migration performances. Migrating your monitor cloud performance in accordance to your provider service level agreement, that is your SLA, and your own performance goals. Be on the lookout for the customer facing issues that arise from a new cloud environment. Detect unexpected changes and fine tune application and the infrastructures. So now we have understand what lies in plan migration run phase. Now let's talk about why organization fail or get delayed during each of these stages of cloud migration journey. One,
Amit, if I can interrupt you for a second, please. We've seen on the chat from the audience that some of you are not able to see the slides. You need to refresh, please, if you're not able to see them. Once you refresh your screen, the slides will appear. Thank you. Apologies, Amit. Go ahead, please.
no worries, Kim. Thank you so much. So now let's talk about why organization fail or get delayed during each of the stages of the cloud migration journey. One of the most common reason where organization struggles is lack of planning for both business and operational impact. Some common pitfalls of insufficient planning includes unforeseen errors, that is lack of understanding and incorrect implementation of best practices. Another reason for such circumstances is staying in the present, not looking on the beyond. That is a major struggle which we used to have right now. We are looking at the present, but not looking beyond. Now we have to understand the future as well. We have to assess the future as well. You are building your cloud for today, but not for the future. While it is important to understand how you will use your cloud today, it is critical to take the future into account and build plan that anticipate your growth or your business new model. The next consequences you will feel it is inability to execute your large migration program at a scale. For the enterprise migration, tasks are executed in same order for every servers in your environment. This means that every small insufficiency can cause massive delays and send your costs skyrocketing. Another reason could be an inaccurate view of your infrastructure. If your organization CMDB, that is configuration management database, is not perfectly up to date, you are not alone. Given this reality, most organization faces long and tedious interview processes that rarely accurate. The less accurate your infrastructure analysis, the more likely you will be break your application connection in the cloud migration process. Last but not the least, your workload and storage misalignment. These are the common factors we need to consider during your journey. At a nutshell, there are few numbers which we has been gathered based on the feedback received, like 90% of the CIO experience disrupted or failed migrations. 25% met their actual migration timelines. 74% have repatriated their application back to on-prem after failing to realize what is the value in the cloud. Till now, we have discussed motivation towards your cloud migration journey, different stages, factors to be considered during this journey to avoid failures and delay. Now we have to ensure how a successful cloud migration. We have observability that can act as a rescue. Observability gives you the companies the visibility that they need effectively prioritizing resources and minimize incident during and after your migration process. Making your existing application, infrastructure, and data layers more observable should be your first priority. Even before you begin your cloud migration process, before because data observability gives your organization performance, uses, cost baseline that can inform all cloud migration decisions. In the planning phase, plan what cloud resources are needed and what resources needed to migrate. Create a baseline of performance to track and measure improvement throughout your cloud migrations. In the migration phase, you need to provide visibility throughout your migration processes across all pillars of observability. Ensure that the incidents are identified and resolved quickly without any cause of delay. In the run phase, you need to build resilient and scalable cloud native apps faster and with less downtime through monitoring across matrices, stress, and log. Therefore, it is essential IT teams to maintain observability and control when monitoring performance and ensure a consistent user experience in the cloud, both during the migration process and the afterward as well. This is especially important in today's hybrid work environment, where the cloud based technologies are becoming increasingly prevalent. It is critical for companies to have an ability to accurately track and measure the status of their migration through performance and end user metrics. This both increase visibility into what part of migration are doing well and what parts requires more attention, thus boosting the success rate. There are few metrics displayed on the screens which we have think which will help you boosting the organization success rates. The parameters which we have captured and bucketed under performance metrics, user experience metrics, and the network metrics. With our series of discussions along with your CIOs and CTOs. Infrastructure KPIs or measures your hardware and network uses. A good cloud management platform should give you all the necessary infrastructure KPIs at a glance, which includes your CPU usage, memory, disk, network latency, or the load balancing. If you're talking about end user and performance, it will be crucial for knowing if your migration has been successful or not. This usually measured through your error rate, error type, CSAT, and NPS. If you consider a network matrix, it will also be a baseline underneath the parameters like network IO, that is your bandwidth, latency, and request volume. We would love to understand what is the definition of your cloud migration, right? Which are the areas of performance give you the most cause of concern? Please ping me in the chat window where the which you think that metrics you think is critical for your organization or infrastructure. So to align your understanding with ours, we have few polls for you. There would be few polls which would love to understand your responses. So meanwhile you are answering the polls, now we have talked about your journey, cloud migration journey, different stages, what could be done in each of the stages, why company get delayed or failed during each of the stages, how observability and their three pillars, that is logs, traces, and matrices, can be a guiding force for a successful migration. We also need to understand how we as an organization of expert in organization cloud migration journey can help you during all the above things which we have explained in our earlier discussion. Organization need to understand why should they partner with us, what experiences we have in this field. Let's talk about few numbers on this. We have more than 20 plus experience in this industry, specialization in service operations, artificial intelligence, and automations. We have a fantastic team of certified consultants which will help you in attaining your organization goal. We have customer in GCC in all the verticals. Having said that, I am handing over to one of the gem of the industry, Kareem, to talk further on the cloud migration journey. Kareem, over to you.
Perfect. Thank you, Amit. So, guys, we've heard a lot about how um, observability can help with the cloud migration journeys, but also the ins and outs, the pitfalls of the cloud migration. And we also said we said that it's super important that you partner with the right um, uh, company, with the right organizations who's expert, but it's also very critical for organizations to partner with the right technology. I want to introduce a bit Datadog here and the platform for a observability and the three pillars of observability consolidated into this one platform. You're talking about a future-proof technology that has been rated a leader in Gartner Magic Quadrant for observability, in GigaOM AIOps, in the Forrester Wave for monitoring solutions. So you're really talking about a leader, a solution that is here for the future. But also, when you're talking about migration to the cloud, and when you're talking about, hey, I'm doing something, I have a legacy on-premise environment, and I want to move it to the cloud. A very important metric to measure is, are you going to be cost efficient? Because at the end of the day, if you're going to spend 3 or 4 or 5 times more on the cloud, then that beats the purpose, right? But it's also the same thing with observability. How are you going to grow with your observable environment on the cloud without really increasing exponentially your total cost of ownership? So obviously, a cost efficient solution is very important at this point. And I get to the third point, which is the consolidation or the unified platform. And you've often seen that tool sprawl or siloed tool do not really bring the value for infrastructure, for operations team, for DevOps teams, for network team, business applications, you name it, right? Security teams as well. So it's very important to have a unified platform to provide a single pane of glass. Other people call it full visibility, some call it 360 bird's eye view. So whatever the term is, basically one-stop shop for all of your observable data in this one platform. But then also super important is when you get to use this tool or solution or platform, unexpectedly you want to have all of your engineers, developers, support functions, infra ops, security using that platform. You need to ensure that this platform is very simple and easy to use. The last thing you want is for them to be needing to learn how to write scripts and develop code to be able to get what they need to. We're talking a simple report or dashboard to create into really pushing agent, observing data, creating alerts, and making sure that you're monitoring all of your environment. So now that we've covered why partner with Viam Labs and Datadogs, the next journey I want to take you through is really where and how Datadog can help you with this cloud migration. We're going to focus on the three stages that Amit introduced to you earlier, which is obviously the plan, migrate, and the run. And we're going to start obviously with the planning stage. So during planning, like every single thing you're going to plan, there's going to be some challenges, some pain points, some issues that you want to resolve, right? If you're planning to do something, it's because you have objectives, you have goals, and potentially and crucially, challenges and pain points. Some of the main pain points you will find during your planning stage is that um, I have an on-premise environment, but what are the resources and how much are they going to cost me if I move them to the cloud? So in effect, where is my baseline and how can I improve on this? Understandably, the first thing you want here is to model or map your services and have a solution that can show you the dependencies of your application loads, your load balancers, your databases, your servers, so on and so forth, right? So understand what links to each other and how the service is actually modeled. The other thing is really mapping your cloud infrastructure to the new ephemeral, non monolithic environment that you want to move to. And let me give a quick example here. You might be running typically virtual machines on premise, right? So you've bought racks of servers, bare metal, and then you've used a virtualization tool like Hyper-V or virtual ESX, for example, and you've created your virtual machines. Now, when you move to the cloud, will you move to a server based instance? Will you move to, for example, an EC2 instance from AWS? Or will you move this load into a serverless functions like Lambda, for example, with AWS? Right? So here's where you're gonna start planning that it's not only about lifting and shifting to the cloud, it could be a lot more because serverless functions like Lambda can provide you scalability and cost efficiency later on in your journey. So obviously now we need to map that legacy and cloud infrastructure. What do we need in terms of tooling to be able to get the dependencies and the mapping of the infrastructure? Well, it's basically your APM comes first, right? Because it's that APM which is going to create for you the service map, the link between your front end into your back end. So your front end user accessed portal or web app or native mobile app into the back end application slash database slash firewalls and everything that is underlining that service in terms of components. And once you have this trace, then you need to make sure that it is linked to your log, because it's in the log where you can understand the issues, the outages, and pinpoint where exactly in the code is the issue. The other thing is that after the service map, well, you also need the host map, the infrastructure host map. Understand basically what infrastructure, what hosts you have on premise, and how these are going to be moved to hosts or serverless on the cloud. And obviously, how they connect or depend or rely to other components through the network. Right? So this is basically what we're going to start with in the planning phase. And your outcome at this point is going to be, during the migration, a faster migration and a non-delayed migration. So a migration that is following the plan, but also an accurate baselining. So we know exactly what we have on premise, and we know exactly how to map it to the new technology on the cloud. And obviously, like every single IT project, you will have issues and outages. You will expect this, right? Every single project in the world with IT, whether on premise, on the cloud, apps, no matter what, there will be issues. But it's also very critical to resolve these issues quickly. So be able to investigate and resolve, but also be able to be proactive, detect these issues before they can potentially happen, and resolve them before your user base or your customer base is impacted. So, how does Datadog help? Well, in a nutshell, and I'm sure you've noticed it already, it's the three pillars of observability, right? We talk about infrastructure monitoring, being able to draw for you that host map, capture for you all of your metrics, whether they're standard or business. And I'm going to give you an example here of a business custom metric. We're working with a retail group in the UAE. And a few months ago, there was the Black Friday, or actually, they call it here White Friday. And some of the custom business metrics they introduced during that day is all about conversion in retail. So basically, how many people are logging into my native mobile app and my web portal? How many people are searching for goods to buy? What is the conversion ratio of goods being searched versus goods being added to the cart? And then the conversion rate between goods being added to the cart versus goods being actually ordered, right? So here, yes, we were looking at CPU and memory and application and trace and logs and everything, but they wanted to introduce these business metrics because that was what they needed to understand in order to say that their White Friday was a success or not. Right, so we start obviously with knowing the infrastructure. On top of that infrastructure is a layer of applications, right? Front end, back end, supporting apps. We need to also make sure that we trace it end to end. So when the request gets to person logging into your front end, working on the front end, up to your back end, committing on the database or pulling data from the database, that trace is all now part of your application performance monitoring. But this is also what you will use to draw your service map, your service model, right? And the same way as infrastructure, here you'd be also to add your consumption metrics. Now we've discovered, monitored the infrastructure, we are end-to-end tracing the applications, but what about understanding exactly where the issues are or potential issues are? Because remember, we want to solve them as quickly as possible. Then this is where your log management comes into effect. And it's basically your logging without limits, where you're able to ingest everything, every single load from anywhere, but be able to index only parts of the logs that are important to you, right? We all know how huge and long the log files are and how there's repetition, and not all of the log file is something that you want to look at, but there are potential and specific parts that you will index. This is what the solution is going to do to help you with understanding the logs. And at the end, there's always the performance monitoring, being able to understand the traffic flow, the latency, the bandwidth, and make sure that your customers or end user community has a greatest experience, and then there are no bottlenecks within your traces from the front end up till the back end, right? So that's the plan phase. It looked simple, and it is very simple when you have observability, right? And this is the same theme we're going to carry into the next two phases, which is obviously now the second one, the migrate. This is the actual start of the work, right? We have identified um, some load, we have planned how we're going to baseline, move on premise to cloud, what we're going to move, and now it's all about doing some actual migration. But what are the pain points that you might face? Well, some of them are going to be around delays and overruns. This is something that Amit talked about in a lot of details, because many organizations have been delayed for months um, with their cloud migration because of this. The second thing is that remember that your on premise service has agreements and service level objectives that were agreed with the business, right? You might have agreed on a 99.99% availability, this response time, that resolution time, so on and so forth. When you migrate to the cloud, you need to at least meet these objectives or deliver better, right? So continuously improve. You can't move from telling the business I have an on-premise application that I'm gonna make available or guarantee its availability at 99.9% of the time, but then you move to the cloud and say, well, it's now available on only 99% of the time, right? You need to improve or at least meet the same objectives. So here's when we talk about ensuring that the agreements are met and resolving issues. Again, we want to ensure that the objectives are met. So we want to resolve issues as quickly as possible and not to delay the migration effort or activities. At the core of this is your core SLO and monitors, so the alerts, but also it's your infrastructure monitoring with the metrics that are captured, with on top a layer that it's taking all of this data, this metadata, and transforming it into actionable insights, into information for you to be able to make some decisions, right? And this is nothing but your dashboards, your single pane of glass dashboard. But also, we talk a lot about proactive, right? So, how can we become proactive? Well, it's all about these robots or bots or synthetic tests that you are able to create to go here and there to your APIs and microservices and portals and make sure that it's continuously testing your newly deployed application and detecting any issues for you before appearing, before your end users or customers are impacted. The outcome here is simply first, you're going to streamline your incident resolution process. So you're going to be able to investigate quicker and resolve quicker. You're going to be able to have your data, or I should say your information presented to you based on persona with drill down capabilities, being able to see these dashboards anywhere and anytime and make decisions. But also, you'd be able to reduce the noise, reduce the false positive, the false alerts. Everyone calls it differently, but effectively, it's that probable root cause, it's that jump over the investigation time to make sure that you have a solution based on AI and machine learning, providing you with capabilities to reduce the noise for you. So how can Datadog help you in this migration stage? You're going to see that we're starting with the core three pillars of observability again. We've talked about capabilities, but then I'm going to add a couple more here. One of them, and it's super important, is your continuous profiler. Because now with your infrastructure and your npm and your log, you're going to continuously profile what's happening with your requests, uh, drawing your flame graph and understanding where the bottlenecks are, and getting to the code where you're going to pinpoint exactly which part of the code is the one causing the issue. We also said we want to meet objectives and we want to become proactive. And this is through the robots or the synthetic tests, where you're gonna create these API tests to go and continuously test your newly deployed application. Also using network monitoring, so network device monitoring and network performance monitoring, to be able to um, map and visualize the network traffic, the aggregation, the bandwidth, the latency, and inform people whenever needed. And as part of this cloud migration, you might also have migrated a database. And this is where database monitoring comes to effect, where we're going to first be able to monitor the queries and how we're pulling data from this database, and whether there's latency in the commit or in the pull of data. And obviously, with the help of the synthetics, with the help of the network monitoring, we'd be able to detect any potential bottleneck or outage. Long journey, right? And we're almost there. We have planned, and we've shown you how observability can help during the planning. We've migrated some of the workload, and we've shown you how observability can help with this migration stage of that cloud journey. But what you will do continuously and forever while you're using these cloud workloads is the operate stage, the run, right? And the run is very important because typically you might neglect or ignore some of the issues during the plan and migrate, or some organizations have done that only to get to the run stage and find out how uh, many issues they have and how problematic the migration was. So let's drill more into that um, run stage, and let's start with the same pain points, which is how to right size the environment. That's the first thing we're going to look at. How to reduce tool sprawl, and how to innovate, keep innovating, introduce new capabilities, new customer facing apps, and gain competitive advantage um, over my other competitors. Let's start with right sizing, and I'll give you a quick example here. I've bought 50 servers on premise, 50 racks, put them in my data center, and I've created 1,000 virtual machines. Each has specific number of CPUs and memory allocated. Great, and I've installed an application, and I allocated 20 CPUs for that application, and I've allocated 16 GBs of RAM. Right, typical. When I move to the cloud, am I going to allocate 20 CPUs and 16 GBs of RAM? Maybe. Maybe no, maybe less, maybe more, right? The reason why I'm using what I am using on premise is because I bought it, I paid for it. So I might as well use it. But when I move to cloud, if that application doesn't require that many resources, and requires 8 GBs of RAM instead of 16 and 10 CPUs instead of 20, then using 20 CPUs and 16 GB of RAM is only going to increase my total cost of ownership, right? My um, invoice, my cloud invoice at the end of the month is going to skyrocket. Something that Amit mentioned earlier. So we want to make sure that we look at the usage on premise, and then when we migrate, we're migrating and right sizing the environment. But also, as I said, we want to make sure that we are lifting and shifting quickly and giving the developers time back to be able to innovate, to be able to help the business gain competitive advantage over other competitors. And in here, we're going to look first at cloud optimization, whether cloud cost, posture, we're going to optimize the cloud, but also make sure that these resources are being managed in real time. Obviously, at the end, what you're looking for is the tool consolidation, your observability being consolidated so that you're gaining more and more value. You're right sizing your environment so that you're commercially not viable or plan and you grow out of it now in the run stage. And finally, shorten your SDLC, your software development lifecycle, so that your engineers, your developers are able to continuously write code, develop code, test it, and release it quickly into the environment. How can Datadog help? Well, at this point, we're going to look again at the three core pillars of observability. At the synthetics with the APIs, so we talk about the continuous testing, the bots, we talk about the service level objectives. We're going to add at this point your real user monitoring. We mentioned we want to monitor in real time. So make sure that we understand the front end and the user journey or experience and show it to whoever needs to see it so that improvements are continuously happening. And then to the developers, make sure that we're helping them with their testing, with their code deployment, with their release process, and make sure that your engineering team is continuously improving on the newly deployed and newly developed cloud applications. Right, so this is, I don't want to say in details or in summary, but this is a nice overview that we wanted to create for you in order to share with you our experience of that cloud migration and how we can help. At this point, and before I turn it to my colleague Werda, we are looking to hear from you with your questions, and obviously the polls that you saw on the screen, and it would be great if you're able to give us your feedback. After you, Warda.
Thank you so much, Kareem and Amit. This was wonderful session, I must say. Hello everyone. Please, the question answer section is open now. Please feel free to ask any queries, any questions you have in your mind in terms of digital transformation, in terms of Datadog. Please feel free to ask any questions, and we will be happy to answer. So we will be open for question answer session now. So go ahead.
Thank you, Warda. While we get the audience adding their questions, there were some questions which were already shared on the chat and were answered privately. Let's go through them quickly, also to share with everyone. One question was, what are the actual challenges faced during cloud migration? I'm gonna elaborate more on that, and typically, to keep it very, very short, money is the first one that comes to everyone's mind is, I have a budget, how can I meet it? The second one is timeline. I want to do this with in 3 to 6 months, for example. The third is skills, because especially in this region here, it's a region that's newly adapting cloud. So you'll find that there aren't many cloud architects and engineers with skills to do it. The fourth one would be meeting the SLAs, the objectives. Basically, we have been doing something very well, consistent, persistent on premise, and now we're transforming into the cloud. But we need to make sure that um, we don't impact our agreements and objectives.
Okay, I believe this
Let me
helps,
check.
Kareem. There are a few more questions in the from the audience. How can we deploy and integrate a ZTNA based platform? Is one of the question.
Sorry, deploy and integrate. Sorry, Warda.
How can we deploy and integrate ZTNA based platform? ZTNA.
ZT. I honestly don't know what ZTNA is. Anbu, if you can please give me a bit more
I believe
details on
Karim,
this.
Karim, there would be how we are going to integrate with the multi-cloud environment that could be more generic. I believe.
Yeah, perfect. Zero trust network access. Okay,
Okay.
right. With multi-clouds, what you're really doing is looking at let's talk about the common ones, the AWS, the Azure, and GCP. Well, it's basically deploying agents on, let's say, EC2 instances or whatever machines that is run on Azure, GCP, and AWS. But it's also connecting to the cloud native capabilities. If you want to, like CloudWatch, for example, from AWS, you can connect and pull the logs out there. But in general, and I want to point you out to a link which I'll add in the chat just now. We have out of the box integrations, 600 of them, a bit more, to connect with anything and everything. So I'll share that link with you. You'd be able to look at, just search for whatever you want to integrate with, and you'll see details there. Were there any other questions we have? I think we
Yes,
might have a few.
yes, we do have a question. It suggests, do we provide cloud for the companies? If I have a data on cloud and I want to archive it on local server, if that can be done.
Do we provide cloud? So the answer is no. What we do is we provide a SaaS-based solution that we host on AWS, GCP, or Microsoft Azure. But obviously, Vime Labs and the expert teams that we have, we can help organizations with this cloud migration. So if you have chosen a cloud provider or about to choose a cloud provider, we can work with you to make sure that you right-size the environment and um, lift and shift your workload from on-premise to cloud.
Okay. So there was one more question. If I have a data on cloud and I want to archive it to a local server, if that can be done.
Um, So you have data on cloud and you want to archive it. We can monitor this activity for you and make sure that your data is secure and is being transferred properly. But we do not provide the capability of archiving, whether on premise or on the cloud. So keep in mind that we are a vendor for observability, so we're actually monitoring your jobs, your requests, your activity, your services, so your infra and operations, but we're not providing capabilities to actually do this archiving.
Okay, I think this was useful. Also, everyone, we are posting some important links. You can see there are few links from Karim and Amit, so please feel to copy it, and you can refer to it, which will be more insightful based on your queries.
Vardha,
So
there
there
was
is
there was a question regarding the pricing. So I have pasted a link with regards to the pricing.
yes,
Yeah, that would be helpful for all of them.
Yeah, that's a very
yes.
good point. I mean, thank you. So pricing is available and published. You can see it on our website. We are also on the marketplace of AWS, GCP, and Azure. So if you have already selected your cloud provider or multi-cloud providers, and you have contracted with them, then you'd be able to just add Datadog from that contract with your cloud provider and through their marketplaces.
Great.
I also want to add one quick note here. On the screens, we have our emails. If you post the questions that we don't get the time to answer, or that we don't answer um, fully, or you want to discuss a bit more with us, then please email us. You have my email, Amit's email, and Warda's email on the screen, and we'll definitely make sure to answer your questions.
Okay.
Okay, so we have one more question. Typically, what time is what typically what is the average cost for saving with cloud migration?
Average cloud saving with cloud migration. Okay. So in the planning, it's typically the baselining. So in the planning stage, I would say the effort is understanding your on-premise and how to map it to to your cloud. So that would be more around time saving and more around the cloud invoice saving. I do not have specific percentages, because keep in mind that applications designed on premise in a monolithic manner can be migrated into microservices, can be migrated into containers, into serverless functions, and it varies really, and it also varies between cloud provider to cloud provider, right? But what I will tell you is that in the planning, it's the time and the cloud invoice. In the migration, it's definitely the time, but the second thing, it's the number of resources required from your size for this effort, right? Without observability, you'll find that you need many people from the infra team, from the ops team, from the security team, from the business applications, from the network team, and DevOps teams, and developers, and all of them working with you. And these people are costly. They're professionals who you pay a lot of money for, but also you need a lot of their time. With observability, you probably need a representative of each team doing a particular job, right? So the time and the effort. In the run, it's 100% around cloud optimization, which means it's all about that cloud invoice. I know
Okay.
that doesn't answer the questions 100%. The values are really specific. By the way, we do have an exercise that we run called a value realization, where we can do this exercise in details with you, picking up the application details, the clouder, the resources that we're going to baseline and migrate to, and we'll be able to quantify the value better for you.
So
Great. I believe, Karim, this was very useful. There is one more question. How do you assist CIOs with their financial planning for cloud migration? This is a very interesting question, I must say.
Uh, okay. So typically, the first thing that CIOs want to do is, and forget about all the technical details that we're talking about now. Let's talk about CIOs. The first thing they want to do is gain competitive advantage over the other competitors, right? So if we're talking about a bank, then this bank has the same services offered by other banks, more or less, right? So the CIO, what they want to do is, be better. Retail, same thing. Telco, same thing, right? So how can we help CIOs? Well, first we can help them by going to market quickly. Agility, right? This is what the cloud is. If you migrate or introduce new services in the cloud, you need to do them quickly, and they need to be innovative and better. Innovative by and by that I mean developers focusing on the innovations rather than on supporting and issues and fixing outages, right? So that would be the first thing, gain competitive advantage. The second thing, every CIO is gonna say the same thing. They are reducing my budget, right? Yes, they will, and the CEOs, the CFOs, they've they have these habits of, we want to reduce cost. IT is the number one place where we're gonna reduce cost from, right? But you, as CIO, still need to deliver the same thing you are delivering or were delivering, if not more. So, well, the way we're going to help you here is by doing more with less. A cost efficient, consolidated observability solution helping you to minimize outages so that you minimize impact on your business critical applications. I'm going to add a third thing, which is around FTE, around employees, right? All the businesses grow 10, 20, 30, 40%, but IT team doesn't grow. IT team hiring is always, backfilling if needed. We don't grow, right? And this is where you need a tool, easy to use, a tool that is helping your team spend a minute instead of 10 to do an activity, and really empowering you to be able to deliver more with the same number of employees that you have.
Okay.
Conscious
So
of time,
yeah. Okay. So
but obviously we still
in
want to
respect of,
hear from you, and we still want to hear your questions. So I'm just gonna pass on to Warda, to give you the last insights, how you can reach us as well in case you have more questions. So after you, Warda.
thank you so much, Kareem. So, in respect of time, we will have to wrap up the session. We can see that there are few questions which are still coming up. The channel is still open till end of the session, so please keep on posting the question, and we will revert to everyone individually. Okay. Thank you so much, Kareem and Amit, for this wonderful session. I'm sure this will help all of us with the digital transformation journey. So now, as we are at the end of the session, I would like to thank you all for joining us today. You can write us down on the mentioned email address, which you can see on the screen right now. In case you have any queries, you want to discuss anything around digital transformation, we would love to be part of your digital transformation journey, and we hope to meet you all very soon. So thank you so much again, and have an excellent day ahead. And we all are hoping to meet you very, very soon. So thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye
Thank
bye.
you, everyone.